So last week's pod became very controversial, and I'm really surprised that it did. You might be living with a mental illness, you might be struggling, you might be going through the worst symptoms imaginable. And if you are, this is probably not the podcast for you. The podcast that I want to talk about is just to expand on last week's on how do we care for the people that are caring for us with our limited capacity, with our limited ability to uh, show care for the people around us that are perhaps caring for us. So today is like part two of the conversation from last week. I'm calling it a breakdown because the conversation was good, but I don't think I highlighted the points well enough that needed to be highlighted. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's dive right in and see what happens. Welcome to Shattered the Podcast. STP is the story of my journey from the depths of mental illness to a place where I could live again. Okay, so strangely, this was controversial, and I'm a little bit confused by this. I'm a little bit perplexed because um, showing that we care for the people that care for us should not be this big controversial thing. It shouldn't be something that was sort of like, oh, I can't care for them. I'm struggling. I'm blah 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 blah. Uh, this is something that we all need to look at because we talk about the sufferer a lot. We talk about the people that are going through stuff, and rightly so. They are the focus of our attention. They're the ones that are struggling. They're the ones that we need to keep safe. But we don't often think about the people around that person. We don't think about the people that are being the carers. And we don't really, as sufferers, understand that they need care as well. Mental illness is not a solo sport. You're not playing it by yourself. You are playing this mental health journey with a team. There's a bunch of people around you, and whether they like it or not, they are with you on that journey. You are like the bus driver. They are on the bus. They're stuck on the bus because they want to be, because they feel they need to be, but they're stuck. So how do you, as somebody that's driving this bus that's in crisis, attend to the people around you? How do we keep them healthy as well? Now, of course, you've got diminished capacity, diminished emotional capacity. You can't do the things that you would normally do if you were caring for somebody else. But even in the midst of your suffering, it is possible to do little things to let your carer know you care. So, I've tried to break it down into three broad categories, and I'm not sure how whether these three broad categories are going to be good enough to encompass the entirety of what needs to be said in this area. But the first one that I've come up with is we need to show gratitude. We need to acknowledge that they are going through stuff as well. And it's hard to do. I get it. But in every day, and I know this because I've struggled just like you have. You have moments in every day where you are able to reach out and to connect, even if it's for 2 seconds. So why have I called it gratitude and acknowledgement? Well, sometimes we can show our gratitude just by acknowledging how hard we make it for the people that are caring for us. We had a really bad day, a really, really bad day. Our mind was going at us. The suicidal ideation, we were struggling with self-harm, all these things. 2, 3, 4, 5 days down the track, you're going to have that moment of clarity where you can spend a little bit of your emotional energy in just saying, Hey, I really appreciated your help the other day. It meant a lot to me. It means a lot to me. I'm grateful that you were there. Now, you're not doing anything for them. You're not turning the script on its head. You're not becoming a carer. All that you are doing is you are acknowledging the fact that you know that they are caring for you. It's a big deal for those of us with kids. When your kid comes to you, even when they're teenagers, and they thank you for something, you're blown away by it. Just that slight acknowledgement. Dad, I know this was hard for you, and I just really appreciate it. Thank you. It's like, oh, 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 this gives me the inspiration to keep going. And that's all I'm talking about with your carer. Just let them know that you're aware of the sacrifices that they make. Be grateful, but acknowledge in the same breath. To me, it's the one. It's one category. This gratitude and acknowledgement, and just that saying, "I know how hard I'm making it for you," can be so incredible. And again, I know this as a carer for a child that uh, survived a suicide attempt. Just when she gives you that, even just a slight acknowledgement that she knows that you exist, it's your heart sort of goes, "Oh, I'm so glad," because most of the time you think that they don't even know that you exist. So just that gratitude, that acknowledgement, it's an easy thing to do. Transparency is the second one that I've come up with. And what do I mean by this? My carer, my wife, was only able to keep caring for me because she knew that I was trying really, really hard. Now, how did she know? I had to be transparent. I had to invite her. Well, I didn't have to, but I wanted to. And I was desperate for her to be at them. But I had to bring her into some of my sessions with my psychiatrist. I had to let her know, and I had to find ways to let her ask me questions without driving me spare. You're sitting there, your mind's going off. You've been struggling with suicidal ideation all day. You're struggling with thoughts of self harm and self hatred, and then they come along and sit beside you, and the last thing that you feel like doing, the last thing that you want to do, is go, "Mate, I am really struggling." And for me, if somebody sits down and puts their hand on my knee and goes, you know, "How's it going, mate? Are you doing all right?" That's like a red flag to a bull. It's like, "Ugh." But my wife can come up to me, she put her hand on my leg and say, "Are you doing all right?" And I know that I'm not going to have a discussion. I know that I'm not going to have to go, "Okay, here's the breakdown of what's going on." But I can just say in our code, "Mate, I'm struggling today." You know, on other days, "I'm having a good day today." It's about being transparent. It's about letting them into that journey that you're going through in whatever way, code words, signals, um, bat signal, um, drums. It doesn't matter what you use. Just let them know where you're at. Let yourself be humble enough to be transparent. Because again, with my daughter, does not want to talk about what she's going through. That is the worst thing for her in the world. And it may be because we've got her diagnosis a bit wrong. And, uh, she might not need psychotherapy. She might need better drugs. We don't know. But we had to come up with a code for her. And I'm going to do this with the camera, but if you're listening audio, all I'm doing is sticking my thumb up. I was like, "How are you doing?" And she knows that if she puts a thumb up or puts a thumb down or kind of does a bit of a sideways wiggle, I know exactly where she's at. She's good. She's not good. She's not doing good at all. It's all she needs to say. And we've already got the plans in place for what we do depending on what she says. So if she's not doing well, she knows that I'm going to keep coming back periodically throughout the day just to make sure that she's safe. Now, she's not necessarily doing that for herself. She's doing that for me. She's doing it so that I can get on with my life and not sit outside her bedroom door, um, worrying about what she's doing inside there. So it's all about that little bit of transparency. Let your carers know where you're at, and and if that's hard to do, figure out codes, figure out shorthand, figure out, maybe it's as simple as getting a cup, and there's nothing in the cup, but turn it upside down if you're not doing well. Let them know that, hey, I'm going to be a bit disengaged today because I am not doing well. Cup on its side. I'm doing okay, but please be patient with me. Cup sitting up normally. Hey, I'm good. It could be anything, just to give that little bit of transparency. It allows your carer to switch off when they can. It allows them to say, I can go for a walk today and I don't have to hurry that walk to get home because I'm worried about what you're going to do to yourself. Transparency. So, again, first one is gratitude and acknowledgement. Let them know that that they are in a tough situation as well. Transparency. Let them know where you're at. Third is understanding. And this is a tough one because this is a big thing to do. It is to show them, again, with gratitude, acknowledgement, and transparency, is for us to be understanding, to be aware that their lives are not perfect. And perhaps we're the ones that are making it not so perfect. But understanding, giving them the opportunity to say every once in a while, I am struggling with this, to be aware that they need time to go and do something for themselves. Understand that sometimes they will get frustrated with you. And instead of getting your back up and getting up all upset, just going, you know what? Their life is really tough. And sometimes they just need to get away from me. Sometimes they just need to do what they need to do. It's allowing them to make mistakes. It's allowing them to do things that you don't think they should do or don't want them to do, but in a way that is with compassion. Um, when I was going through the situation with my daughter, she was in hospital. My wife wanted to be there every second of every day. She just, that for her, even though my daughter was locked in a psych ward, and my wife, we couldn't be in there with her, and this was during COVID as well. So, um, you know, we could be in there with her and not with her, and Mare was going to sit outside the door, and the conversation that I had with her was, we can't be there every minute of every day. We have to acknowledge that she is safe. But it was forcing her to go and do things that she liked to do. Walk around the hospital and find plants, get cuttings, um, making sure that she went and got a nice cup of coffee, ensuring that the place that she was staying was nice, wasn't just the budget worst of the worst that we could get. It was, okay, look, we'll try and find you a nicer place to stay so that you can be a little bit more comfortable. And of course, I had to keep running back to um, Canberra to look after our other kids. Um, and then when I was back at the hospital, it was saying to her, "Why don't you go for a walk? Why don't you go down to the beach? Why don't you you just go and do something?" That understanding, that ability to just say, you know what, there are times where you are going to do things that to a person suffering may seem indifferent or cruel, but they're necessary for them to keep going. Now, as a sufferer, there was a time in my life where my wife needed to know pretty much on an hourly basis how I was doing. And even now, when I'm doing so much better, every morning I have to touch base with her. So if she gets up and goes to work and I don't see her, the expectation is that I will give her a call pretty much as soon as I'm awake, just to touch base, let her know that I'm okay. Now, a long time ago, that was a safety mechanism. That was like we had to do that to keep me safe. But she wants us to keep doing it, not as often, of course. I had to understand that I do that, but not for me. I do it for her because it gives her peace of mind. It shows her a little bit of understanding. And sometimes I didn't want to call. I'm like, I'm lying here. I'm not feeling like I'm struggling at all. I don't want to call somebody and tell them how I'm feeling. But I had to be understanding. I had to know that her day would be dictated in many ways by how I was feeling. Did she have to leave work early? Did she have to ensure that I wasn't left alone with the kids just because of what I might do to myself? I had to and continue to be understanding and know that, okay, this is a process that works for her and it's an important process for her. And it's just a little bit of understanding and it makes a world of difference. So, the three things to recap: gratitude, acknowledgement, be grateful, show them that you're grateful, acknowledge that they are going through tough times to them and to yourself, but mostly to them. Hey, you are doing it tough and I get it. Being transparent, allowing them to understand where you are in your mental health journey at times that are sometimes inconvenient for you, but it helps them. So gratitude, acknowledgement, transparency, and third of all, and none of these are more important than any other, but understanding. Being aware that they aren't going to do everything right every time. They're going to do things that you don't understand. They're going to do things that you don't agree with at times, but might be necessary for their own health. It's just about being understanding. These three things, they sound big, but they're not. There's little ways that you can do each one of these things. And I encourage you to do so. Let's care for our carers, eh? Let's acknowledge that they are going through stuff as well. Hey, have a great week. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now. Hey, thanks for joining us on Shattered the Podcast. I'm Mark. Special thanks to my producer, Meredith Brosnan, and also to Torian, Kevin, and Lorraine. And we can't forget the amazing band Adelaide, who let us use their song as our theme. For more information, check us out on all your socials, STP Shattered the Podcast.